refining some for different projects. The items that were brought up, number one, the retirees that retired prior to '93 were and still are paying a premium for their death benefit, yet those retired since then were 2.5 to 3 times the amount of retirement. Their premium was bought out by the city, so there's no charge. If that is not discrimination, what is? One person tells me that amounts to fraud. The second item that I brought up last year, those retirees that were working in '78, which I was one of, was given a booklet for planning and figuring your retirement. Stated there would be cost of living raises yearly. Ours doesn't come close, even to Social Security. We don't pay half taxes and fees. Why is our cost of living cut in half compared to others? The third item that I brought up before is our retirement system has lost over 40% in the last 7 years, even with the larger contribution by the city. I recently witnessed one retiree get 120% of his base salary, while yet another received 96.2% because of the city, or maybe Chief Horton's failure to replace retirees and giving overtime to a small group of people, resulting in high compensation and retirement benefits as much as $76,000 for the rest of his life. The new item that I haven't mentioned, y'all investigating city manager and board situation. I think the city should be looking into this city manager and chief board situation for wrongful acts. Horton was a buddy that was brought here by city manager. If looked into, you would probably find he did not qualify to be chief using our own public requirements for that position. Of course, he had the latitude to hire who he wanted. I know this is a lot to swallow for our 2 new council members, but the rest should be aware of everything I've mentioned. I would love to hear some feedback from this. Also, I would be more than glad to discuss this in a work session if I was given the opportunity. And I think that's it. I want to thank you for your time and hope your consideration concerning these matters. And I'm open to any questions whatsoever. And I've got evidence to back up everything I said. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Dolores Knight. She's followed by Mr. Tony Goodwin.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. My name is Dolores Knight, and I reside at 33 Kennedy Drive in Portsmouth. I come here tonight to ask you to rescind your blackout of television non-agenda speakers. I find it difficult to believe that you view the televised comments by non-agenda speakers as a threat to the economic development of our city. Business owners locate to cities that have low rate taxes, stellar schools, low crime rates, and a variety of arts. One new member of the City Council suggests business owners will include non-agenda speakers on the cut list. How naive. The reason for the blackout in the view of many citizens is members of the council feels citizens are being too crucial of their job performances. Members of council, I am asking you tonight that you begin televising non-agenda speakers again. Yes, members of City Council, I am asking you tonight to begin televising non-agenda speakers again. By doing so, I am confident your performances in the view of many will improve with this immediately. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Tony Goodwin.
Mr. Goodwin asked to be dropped down.
Excuse me?
Mr. Goodwin asked to be dropped down. He's on his way, but he's not quite here yet.
I'm sorry he's not here at the moment. We'll look at that. Mr. Les French. And Mr. French is followed by Ms. Pat Simons.
Good evening, Mayor Wright, Vice Mayor Cherry, Member of Council, City Manager. My name is Les French. I reside at 208 Glasgow Street in Portsmouth, Virginia, and I'm here representing myself. I'm respectfully asking you to rescind your decision not to broadcast via non-agenda speakers. I went to your meeting that you had the other night at Norcom. I listened to all the speakers. I did not speak myself. I think you got several good suggestions there. The mayor's address on civility, I think is a good thing to stress before people begin to speak. And I think the lady that said you should have some hard and fast rules so that people will know what conduct is acceptable and unacceptable. And they should know that it's highly unlikely when they raise an issue with you that you're going to be able to make a decision that night. You can take it under advisement, you're going to ask the appropriate staff people, then they're going to come back and give you information that will enable you to make a good decision. I don't think any of you, when you voted to do away with this, had any bad intent. I think you thought you were making a good and reasonable decision. But the most important thing you do as a council member is build confidence in government. And when you take things away, whether there's a good reason, whether you can explain it away or not, people say, what's going on here? There's something they don't want me to know. There's something they don't want me to hear. You all know you can't escape criticism, but you can tell people they can criticize you in a polite and professional manner and not be shaking their fists. So all I'm asking you to do is to take a hard look, which I know you are, and go back. And you need to give the mayor the power to use his gavel. And that's hard if he's being criticized. You've got to support him when he says, you're kind of out of line here. We want you to change the way you're saying these things. You'll get criticized for that too, but it's a much better way to deal with people. And I can say anything I want to within 3 minutes, and I don't understand why most people can't. And that's all.
Our next speaker is Ms. Pat Simons, and she's followed by Mr. Steve Carroll.
Good evening, council members. Pat Simons, I live in Park Manor. I love watching people show class and grace. It's something we all need to do more of in all situations, especially our interactions with each other. Sometimes we mistakenly think that the world is ours in a bubble, but we're so wrong. And it's very wise that when you plan to burst someone's bubble, be sure to have both hands cupped underneath of them. There's no class or grace in bursting other people's bubbles. We make decisions every day, and some of those are how we act and react to situations. I watched last week's community meeting on the website, and I witnessed all class and grace when almost every citizen in the audience stood in support of your rescinding the order to pull the plug on the non-agenda speakers. The audience, I noted, was about triple the size of last year's community meetings. The citizens didn't have to venture out on that foggy, rainy night. They chose to be there. So just what did the presence of so many indicate? It said, this is a disappointing day for me, my family, and all Portsmouth citizens. Fair or unfair, we hope this council will get back on track. The presence of so many said, we are tired of political antics, cheap props of using tragedy as a platform to advance an agenda in order to gin up emotional attachments of fear and intimidation in order to silence the citizens. Sunlight remains the best detergent. We should not have to rely on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook to know what's going on in our local government. But thank goodness these methods are there for us when government chooses to shut us out. When our elected representatives are unwilling to be accountable to those for whom they work. We can and will replace you when the time is right. In pulling the plug, each of you made one statement loud and clear. You said to me, we are ashamed of Portsmouth citizens. Yes, class and grace is surely what we all need to practice in all situations. For the truest grace is not to forgive, but to never have found fault in the first place. I am asking you to restore the faith in the Portsmouth citizens by rescinding your motion. Thank you.
Following Mr. Carroll is Mr. Mark Geduldig-Yatrofsky.
Reside at 3112 Ridge Drive. There was a recent article in the Currents where the reporter appeared to solicit an outside opinion about the non-agenda speaker issue and the broadcast of it. And from what I'm not sure exactly what the intent was, but the outside opinion said there was no constitutional obligation to broadcast. I wouldn't disagree. You have not infringed our right to come here tonight, or I wouldn't be here. However, following the logic that we shouldn't take advantage of the ability to broadcast public or non-agenda speakers on Channel 48 doesn't make sense the way you've interpreted it. If we interpret it the way you would have us to believe, our founding fathers should have scribbled the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence on some cave wall, and we could just charge everybody admission to come and see it. But they chose to use technology to scribe it on paper properly for posterity. Maybe Mr. Harkey would rather give up his laptop tonight and start recording the proceedings with shorthand. The fact is, the people benefit from non-agenda speakers having their comments broadcast. Again, I believe this is nothing more than a smokescreen on council's part. This has nothing to do with speakers being unruly at all. Mrs. Simons made the point well. The public's confidence in your ability to lead and to get information that we need to make good decisions can only be done through non-agenda speakers. And it can only be done when people hear those comments. As far as me coming up here and grandstanding or anyone else, rest assured, members of council, I don't have the time to waste. I'm not going to waste my time coming up here grandstanding. Anybody who thinks that I'm grandstanding and wasting the time doing it has got more nuts in their head than a freight. I don't have it to waste. Mr. Moody at the community session made a motion to restore the broadcast of non-agenda speakers. Not a single member of council had the class to even second the motion for a discussion and a vote. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. And Mayor, your decision, and I'll say it's your decision because at the last several meetings I asked who made the decision to pull the plug. Nobody would respond. Nobody on council would respond. You wouldn't respond. Who made the decision to pull the plug? And I would submit that your decision to muzzle non-agenda speakers by cutting off the broadcast is far greater a threat to the citizens of this city and to the freedom of speech and the Constitution of the United States than all the guns combined. Period. They are making a mistake. And you do not serve the citizens of this city by cutting it off. No one has unjustly criticized any member of this council, and I'll repeat again, anytime that I've come up here, I've always been factual and I've challenged you to state otherwise. If I'm grandstanding, tell me when I'm grandstanding. I challenge you to tell me. Restore the broadcast. It is the right thing to do. It's the constitutional thing to do. It's the responsible thing to do.
Following Mr. Geduldig-Yatrofsky is our final speaker, Mr. Charles Greenhood.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow citizens. I bring you greetings from our great father in Washington. I believe that in his inaugural address yesterday, he enunciated some principles that bear on the present unpleasantness that you have engendered between the citizenry and yourselves. And I will quote from his remarks. You and I, as citizens, have the power to set this country's course. You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift in defense of our most ancient values and enduring ideals. Let each of us now embrace, with solemn duty and awesome joy, what is our lasting birthright. With common effort and common purpose, with passion and dedication, let us answer the call of history and carry into an uncertain future that precious light of freedom. And so, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have supported the suppression of expression that is brought about by turning off the cameras during this portion of the city council meeting, you stand on the wrong side of history. And I don't believe that the president who delivered those words with, I believe, sincerity would approve of what you have done. Because you are stifling the voices of the citizens. Yes, we can be heard in this room, but the rest of our neighbors in the city will not hear us. Portsmouth City Watch again is recording these proceedings and will publicize them as before on YouTube. But many of our citizens don't have access to that channel. I'm gratified to say that, conservatively speaking, at least 63 individuals, other than myself, have accessed last council session's video that was posted by Portsmouth City Watch. And 23 citizens viewed the video that you all posted in abbreviated form. Now, that really isn't a fair comparison because many citizens don't use YouTube. Many citizens view these proceedings directly on the Portsmouth channel. And so I can only tell you, a portion of the results. But you have done wrong. And I have supported many of you who are sitting there today with my voice, with my vote. I pledge to you today that those of you who stand solidly behind this action will not receive my vote in the future. This to me is a fundamental issue of citizens' right to know. Freedom of speech has value, when others can hear you. If you are speaking in the proverbial forest and there is nobody there, you have freedom of speech, but it is ineffective. You have placed us in the forest.
Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Mr. Geduldig-Yatrofsky for taking his time to tape this portion of the meeting. You know, we've heard a lot of reasons why we need to continue with it, but I ran across one last week that I had really forgotten about. On occasion, there's a speaker that comes before us and says something that has a date. In this case, it was a speaker discussing the Social Security offset. They mentioned a date, and I needed to reference that, and I was close to picking the phone up and calling our thesaurus here for the information, and lo and behold, I thought about Mr. Geduldig-Yatrofsky's taping of it. I said, well, let me, since I was sitting in my office in front of my laptop, I said, let me source it. And I did. I was able to fast forward to the speaker and get the date, so that I found that to be real useful. And the quality was good as well. So thank you for taking your time to do that.
Mr. Charles Greenhood.
Good evening, council members, mayor. Yes. I'm going to make this pretty brief. I've been involved in the tunnel opposition for many, many years. And we have a lawsuit coming up that's going to be heard, I believe, on the 1st of May. And if we win it, which is likely, it's still going to be a Pyrrhic victory, because what's planned ahead, it's already being discussed and rumored to be affected. We're going to have tolls on every major thoroughfare, tunnel, crossing, all over Hampton roads, even if it's not the Midtown Tunnel, the downtown tunnel. So such a Pyrrhic victory, we win the battle, but we lose the war. The other transportation issues in the state are extremely just burdensome at this point, and there's very little money to pay for any of it. Even a road repair coming in 2017, there's no money for it. The casino bill, casino legislation, along with transportation issues and bills, have been brought to the Virginia State Senate by Senator Lucas, and it passed the subcommittee, I guess about 2 weeks ago. And it goes on to the full Senate Committee of Laws this coming Monday, the 28th of January. And I just heard a little while ago from Senator Lucas that she had a meeting with the governor, and the governor said that he will support the casino legislation going on to the, or sign the bill if it should pass the whole General Assembly for a referendum to be passed in our locality. If we don't show support from the city of Portsmouth, I don't understand how anybody in Richmond can take us seriously or take the problem seriously. The issue really I'm bringing forward to you tonight is, where do you stand as our city council? And this being such a major issue, it just shocks me that you haven't taken a position yet. You know, you don't have to make a resolution, but you can certainly be in agreement that this is an important decision to make. The potential for this to be the cure is there. The potential for this to be the cure for all of Hampton Road's transportation issues is there. If you didn't read or hear, and somewhere down the line the last few years, that this ring of fire that Virginia Pilot so eloquently described, involves every tunnel, including the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, the James River Bridge, Route 460, Route 58, 264, 164. You name the road, you name the crossing. And we're planning on having tolls. Well, we're planning on expecting tolls, even if we don't have tolls on the Elizabeth River, Midtown Tunnel, and Downtown Tunnel. I don't think we have to discuss how wrong it is. I don't think we are in disagreement on the nefarious problems we're going to have with our economy. But we need to gather together in one strong voice, and from the city of Portsmouth, where we could have the first casino in the state of Virginia. There might be people that don't want to have a casino. You know, the fact is that, you know, there's going to be people opposing casinos because of, you know, thinking that it's back from the 1930s and Al Capone and Elliot Ness and rum running, and it's not that anymore. The casino industry is a very regulated industry. And as a matter of fact, I've read the Senate bill that is going to regulate the casino commission, and there's so much intriguing regulation involved in that I don't think any of us here would want to even run a casino, because it's going to be so heavily regulated that it just couldn't possibly go off the road. Mr. Yatrofsky said, well, what's next? Prostitution? Well, I don't think so, but that's an idea. Fact is, casino in Portsmouth is not prostitution. What happens here is important. What happens here in Portsmouth could be the linchpin for the saving of our entire Commonwealth. Busloads of people leave church parking lots every weekend, taking people to Dover, Delaware, to Maryland, to Atlantic City. So think about that. The money should be left in this community and should be awarded to this community. The casino legislation is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Edmonds.
Greenwood, certainly we are all against tolls. And certainly we know that we can't stand it to come this way. Casinos are just adding a lot of other travesties that will come into the city that will destroy our city. If they want casinos to come, they can route a passport into some other areas. I adamantly stand against casinos in the city of Portsmouth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you take a position on prostitution?
That is not funny.
I'm sorry.
That is not funny.
Vice Mayor Cherry.
I'm against both, by the way. I just want to echo and support the comments of Councilman Edmonds. I won't repeat.
Mr. Moody.
My subject is entirely different. Mine's about chickens. I would like to, we had a group of ladies, and I think in an audience tonight, and we kind of tweaked my memory. And are we close to getting some feedback on any recommendations from staff so people can grow their own chickens and gather their own eggs, I guess is the correct terminology?
Yes, sir, we are. We have a group that's working on this, and we plan to report it back in a work session so we can get some direction from you. And from there, if it's council's desire to implement this, we would then take it to the planning commission for the appropriate code change. Very good. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Members of council, there is no additional business.
Thank you.